He might have lost the 2023 Wimbledon final against Carlos Alcaraz, but Novak Djokovic's defeat makes sense in many ways. From his strange Wimbledon run to the Alcaraz phenomenon and the significance in the tennis world, these are the 5 biggest lessons learned. Djokovic was coming off the back of a third Roland Garros title, and there was the talk of getting closer to his quest for a calendar Grand Slam after a near miss in 2021. Unlike other players, the Serbian didn't need any warm-up tournaments leading up to Wimbledon, and unlike Roland Garros, where he wasn't the clear favourite, Djokovic entered into the tournament as the man to beat. In fact, at the beginning, the Serb boasted more wins at Wimbledon than the rest of the world's top 20 players combined. For many of us, we expected Djokovic to use the early rounds to warm up, and to be honest, that's kinda what he did. Looking to equal Roger Federer's record of 8 titles at the All England Cup and having won the last 4 editions, Novak began his title defense against Pedro Cachin in the first round. It was their first meeting ever. Things got interesting after Nole got broken by the world number 68 in the 3rd game. But as you already know, he recovered quickly to win the match in straight sets. Djokovic was never really in trouble the entire time, 6-3, 6-3, 7-6. In fact, the world number 2 helped out in drying the court with his towel after a 1-hour 30-minute rain delay left wet patches on centre court. In the second round, Djokovic faced Jordan Thompson. The world number 70 hit 21 aces overall and tried to employ the serve and volley tactic against the Serbian, but a couple of misjudgments at the net and mini lapses in concentration were all that Djokovic needed to get the advantage. Novak won in straight sets, but not after playing a tiebreak in the second set and nearly in the third, 6-3, 7-6, 7-5. It was a fine performance from Thompson, but when you are playing against the best ever, it just always ends the same way 99.9% of the time. Djokovic's win over Thompson was his 350th match win at majors, another one for the record books. Djokovic faced his old foe Stan Wawrinka in the 3rd round, and really, their matchup brought back memories of their intense rivalry back in the day. Stan the man took 2 slams from Novak, and although they had played each other 26 times prior to the match, they had never met on grass. 38-year-old Wawrinka hasn't aged the same as Novak Djokovic, and it was pretty obvious for everyone to see, particularly in the first 2 sets, which ended 6-3, 6-1. But with the 3-time major champ finding a second win in the 3rd set, and with the crowd rallying behind him, it looked like we were about to see something special. The pair went into a tiebreak in the 3rd set, but Nole clinched it, setting up a meeting with the big serving Hurkacz in the 4th round. 2 years ago, Hurkacz reached the Wimbledon semi-finals after defeating Roger Federer in what was literally the final match of the Swiss's career. The Pole was looking to cause an upset in Novak's 100th match at Wimbledon, and he came close in many ways. We didn't really see vintage Djokovic against the world number 17, who was playing an incredibly inspired service game with accurate serves 141 miles per hour. The first 2 sets went into a tiebreak, but somehow Novak did what he always does, finding a way to win. The match was then suspended. When play resumed the next day, Hurkacz's big serve got rewarded, and he took the 3rd set before Nole finally broke Hubie for the first time to steal the last set and win the tie 4-setter. Hurkacz produced 33 aces and won 81% of his first service points over the course of the encounter. It was the first time in 7 years that any man had gotten that many aces against arguably the best returner of all time. Sam Querrey was the last to do it against Nole in Wimbledon 2016. Having survived the service bombs from Hurkacz, Djokovic faced 7-seed Andrei Rublev, who was coming off the back of a 5-set thriller against Alexander Bublik. The 23-time major winner extended his head-to-head lead to 4-1 against the Russian, but it didn't come without some drama. Rublev was looking to make it past the quarterfinals for the first time in a major, and he looked to be on course after winning the first set, but it seemed to take a lot off him, and Djokovic eventually outlasted him in 4 sets. The rallies were long at times, and for every question Rublev asked, Novak had a reply, battering the Russian into submission 4-6, 6-1, 6-4, 6-3. The Serbian then faced Jannik Sinner in the semis, and once again reminded everyone who the boss was. Sinner's nerves might have blown up his body because he made way too many errors and was inconsistent on the pressure points. The 21-year-old 8th seed produced plenty of aggressive tennis as usual, but the Italian just couldn't curb the errors. It's probably what happens when you don't play a top 75 player on your way to the semis. But it wasn't really the errors that caught everyone's attention. 2 things stood out for me. Fans getting under the champion's skin in a completely disrespectful manner, and the umpire penalising him for what wasn't even close to a hindrance. Of course, Novak used both the situation to his advantage and won in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4, 7-6. The stage was set for the final, and Alcaraz, the top seed, was flying high in confidence, but there were many questions to be asked. Was Carlitos just another contender and pretender to the throne, or was he a significant threat this time? Having taken out the big guns like Daniil Medvedev, Holger Rune, and Matteo Berrettini, it looked like the Spaniard could make a statement, and boy did he. This time, it was Djokovic who had everything on the line: the chance to equal Margaret Court's record, a 34-match winning streak at Wimbledon to keep alive, the chance to equal Roger Federer's record of 8 Wimbledon titles, a winning streak of 15 tiebreaks, and the chance to return to world number 1, just to mention a few. But it just wasn't the Serbian's day. With royalties and celebrities present, Carlos Alcaraz redeemed himself and avenged his loss in the semi-finals of the French Open. The match went back and forth for 4 hours and 42 minutes in nerve-wracking fashion. Alcaraz took the advice of tennis legend Martina Navratilova and used his backhand slices a lot more. His serve was also impressive, and he mixed things up, using drop shots, volleying, lobs, and everything else. After major swings in momentum, uncharacteristic errors from Nole, coupled with genius-level plays from Carlitos, the Spaniard sealed it in 5 sets. But these are some of the biggest talking points. Novak might stay longer. I think that the timing of the Alcaraz win was important for tennis as a sport. Let me take you back to 2016 when Djokovic completed the non-calendar Grand Slam and had achieved a lot, just like in 2015. The following year saw the Serb split with his team and battle with injuries. However, in many games, it also looked like Nolo had lost some motivation for the first time ever. It just seemed like he plateaued. Although this might be an unpopular opinion, and you might not agree with me, it looks like if Nole had won Wimbledon and gone on to win the US Open and complete the calendar Grand Slam, he definitely would have had retirement within his sight in a year or two. Who knows? So on a positive note, Alcaraz's win gives Novak something to think about. And while he really doesn't have to do anything to prove that he is the greatest of all time anymore, he will surely be motivated to come back stronger because he underestimated Alcaraz on grass and had gotten a little too comfortable. You don't believe it? Djokovic said it himself.
I thought I'll have trouble with you only on clay and maybe hardcourt, but not on grass. But now, it's a different story from this year, obviously. Congrats, amazing way to adapt to the surface. You played maybe once or twice before this year's Wimbledon on grass, and amazing, just what you did in Queens, and congratulations to your team, Juanqui, everybody, well done, guys.
For someone who had set his sights on breaking all the important records in the sport, this might be a blessing in disguise. It kinda reminds me of when he got banned and came back to literally destroy everyone. The defeat also helps with easier transitioning. Another reason I think that there was a silver lining to Djokovic's loss is that tennis fans all over the world won't feel a void in the game once Novak and Rafa call it quits. No doubt, the big three will leave a hole once they all retire, but Alcaraz makes transitioning easier and gives a big psychological boost to not just the rest of the tour, but tennis faithfuls as well. Hopefully, viewership won't suffer as much. Talking about viewership, close to 15 million people watched the Wimbledon final between Djokovic and Alcaraz, a significant rise in previous years. That says something. As a diehard Djokovic fan, I must admit that Alcaraz's game is compelling. It's quite easy for him to get anyone hooked with his electric style of play. Carlitos' win also inspires players of his generation to do better. Here's what the Spaniard said: "It's great for the new generation as well. I think to see me beating him and making them think that they are capable of doing it as well. It's great for me, and I think the young players as well. Felix Auger has already taken up the challenge and has revealed that Carlitos' win at Wimbledon awakens his competitive side and motivates him to do the right things. FAA is one of the few players to hold an impressive record against Alcaraz, having won 3 of his 4 encounters with the Spaniard. He says that he won't sit back and let Carlitos win everything. And then we've got top-rated young players like Jannik Sinner and Holger Rune who are going to battle it out with the Spaniard. So are we about to see something special in the coming years? Also, the Wimbledon final gives a boost to Alcaraz's status. Alcaraz's status boost. Do you remember the early noughties when it looked like tennis was suffering from a hangover with the likes of Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras and the other big boys at the end of their career? A few players came up, but because they didn't play the greats at the peak of their career, it put some question marks on the credentials as world-class players. Although Nole is certainly not at his peak, he's still in top shape at 36 and would easily give the rest of the tour a beating on his worst day. But for Alcaraz, winning Novak in a Grand Slam final in Wimbledon in 5 sets on a surface where he has the least experience leaves a sort of rub effect, which essentially means that he certainly commands more respect now than he did when he won the US Open in the Serbian's absence. In other words, Djokovic's greatness has invariably elevated Alcaraz's status and accomplishments. If he hadn't beaten Novak on the biggest stage and gone on to be the number 1, Alcaraz probably wouldn't have gotten the same respect, because Djokovic is still the best, and Carlitos agrees with that.
Well, I still consider Novak the best. Honestly, I have to beat him more than once, twice, whatever I will beat him.
Next, I think that nothing changes for Novak. There has been a lot of talk about Nole's mistakes in the final. The two missed routine backhands in the second set tiebreaker, and that missed volley at 1-love 40-30 in the fifth set. It was almost reminiscent of what happened in the fifth set at Roland Garros in 2013. For me, nothing sucks more than watching those highlights again, but that's fine. I can understand. It is just a case of Djokovic being a victim of his own success. For the record, he's arguably the most consistent two-handed backhand ever seen. He is also the definition of clutch, which is why those losses hurt. Imagine how good you have to be for that to happen. But he is still human after all, and the pressure of pursuing history will always be there. Djokovic might have some sleepless nights after some of those missed opportunities, but that's just how the sport works. The Serbian wasn't serving at his best. He made weird unforced errors. The wind factor at his back made the ball toss harder to get. We could go on, but I have to say that Carlos won the match more than Nole lost it, because this most likely wouldn't have happened against any other player. We shouldn't take away any credit from the Spaniard because those balls were neutral balls when Djokovic lost it, and it is not a 100% guaranteed that the Serbian would have won the points if the rally extended. Carlitos was simply brilliant. I believe that we should see this upset as a healthy one, but I've also come to the conclusion that I'm a little clueless on the dynamics of fandom in tennis these days. It's perfectly okay to love one player more than the other, but what I don't understand is how a 4-time defending champion gets booed on a court he hasn't lost on in 10 years. How bad does it get really? Novak Djokovic has an incredibly large fan base in the sport, but it is quite easy to see that he is yet to find love on the court in the way Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal did. In fact, adoration is one of the things that Fedal fans point to when making those arguments we already know about. Novak's racket smashing against the net post during his defeat to Carlos Alcaraz in Wimbledon cost him $8,000. Some fans might point to what I think is an incorrect fact that Djokovic's attitude is sometimes inappropriate. That isn't true anyway, but when you consider the fact that the crowds already find the likes of Nick Kyrgios entertaining just like John McEnroe did in the past, it leaves room to many questions. Questions that many Djokovic fans would rather not ask. Personally, I feel that there should be mutual respect from fans to players and between fans even when you have a favourite. What do you reckon of the dynamics of tennis fandom these days? There was even the small talk of fans calling Nole a monster because of the way that he took a bite out of a banana while trying to recharge during the final. Looks like he ate the banana with the peel or something, but who cares anyways? Why does it even matter? Let's just talk tennis. The hard court season has already begun, and it will be exciting to see Novak Djokovic back in North America. Although he withdrew from the Canadian Open due to fatigue and was replaced by Wimbledon quarter-finalist Chris Eubanks, he will likely play in Cincinnati as his preparation for the US Open. Now, it's worth pointing out that although grass has been Nole's favourite hunting ground in recent years, he still loves hard courts more than anything else. So it will be interesting to see how things shape up at the US Open, which starts towards the end of August. At 36, Djokovic now has to select the tournaments to participate in so that he can prolong his career a bit and limit injuries. With the Serbian's experience, he doesn't even need warm-up events to get going. Now the problem is that with Carlos Alcaraz playing many more events, it's very likely that Djokovic wouldn't finish the year as number one, except if Carlitos gets injured, but I wouldn't get too worried about that. Instead, I'm more eager to see how Djokovic responds to his Wimbledon loss and how he also responds to playing in the United States again after being banned for a year. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see an emphatic response from the Serbian. Another significant event would be the year-end championship, where Djokovic will have the chance to pull ahead of Roger Federer by winning the title for the 7th time. We also have to remember that Rafael Nadal isn't totally out of the picture yet. If the 22-time major winner manages to come out injury-free, it is safe to say that 2024 would be an exciting year for the sport. Do you see him winning the French Open one more time? That seems like a stretch now, because he'll need to regain fitness, find his form, and beat the best players in the world. But if there is anything we've learned over the last 2 months, it is that there is a lot of room for unpredictability. If Carlitos could win Wimbledon against Djokovic, if Daniil Medvedev could win a Masters 1000 on clay, if Andy Murray could continue to play on a high level with a metal hip, and if I could dish out a serve at 180 miles per hour, anything is possible. At the end of the day, Novak Djokovic's defeat at Wimbledon was unexpected, but it can be rationalized from various perspectives. His possibly increased longevity, an easier transition from the Big Three era, more credibility for Alcaraz, and inspiration for the rest of the tour to raise their level of play. And if you like this video, you should join our new Tennis Plus membership, where you can support the channel to help us bring consistent videos to you weekly, and if you want to see more videos about Djokovic, check out these videos.